Well, good morning, everyone. How's everybody feeling today? Good? Everybody enjoying themselves? All right. Too bad it has to end today, right? But the one good thing, The Sopranos on television, that never ends. Yes. I've been having a great time reviewing them on my YouTube channel. We review, every Monday we review, and fortunately I have 86 episodes of Sopranos that'll keep me going for the next 2 or 3 years, so it's all good. Anyway, really a pleasure. Federico and I just met yesterday, even though I've been a fan of his. Mob guys are fans of certain things. And, he's a great character on The Sopranos. We have something in common. Both Nobledon, right? From Naples. Yes.
Right,
Yes.
Born in Naples.
My dad was born there. So, for any of you that are Sicilians out there, it's all right. You don't have to apologize. We still recognize you. It's okay. But anyway, really is a pleasure. And I want to get into it. I know Federico has a tremendous career, a lot going on, and hopefully I'll get a chance to sit down with him. And we'll say more even on a YouTube video one time. But I know today you want to hear about The Sopranos. And I want to do the same. So, Federico, you had a great role. I mean, really. I want to ask you, you were the enforcer. You look big enough that you could have been my enforcer one day. But really a great role. How'd you enjoy it? How'd you get into it?
How did I get into The Sopranos?
Into the role. How do you prepare for something?
Well, it was very interesting because I don't know if you know this, but I started in theater. So in theater, in act, I think that's the greatest foundation for an actor, by the way, because there's something called a rehearsal process. Sometimes you're rehearsing for about 6 weeks. So get to understand the character, and while you're blocking on stage and everything, but you really get to work the character. We don't have that luxury in film and television. But what happens is, from so many years of doing theater and being on stage, you have that in your muscle memory, and you kind of condense it doing in television. What's mics? They're in and out.
Yesterday,
hey guys back there, what's going on? So when I get into a role, I think of all of the work that I have in the theater. And so, okay, he's going to come and fix this? All right. All right, so where was I? I'm sorry. The enforcer, okay. So I went in, and what Terrence Winter said is that when you came in, we weren't sure that you could handle the fighting. So I remember when I started mimicking the fighting and they were in the front seat, I just got up, basically. And when I had to do the fighting, I just went right up to him and, just like doing all this kind of stuff, just like punching. And I even actually, what I said to them? I said, you have me punching this little Asian woman like 3 times. I punch her 1 time, she's dead. You know what I mean? You don't want to, I think, so from that point, I think they cut out the 2 other punches, But, losing my track of thought anyway.
I think everybody would like to know, how was it working with Tony?
James Gandolfini.
Yes, James Gandolfini.
One of the nicest guys you'd ever want to meet. Really humble, very sweet, down to earth. Didn't know why people wanted to know his opinion. He was that kind of guy. The very first time that I worked with him, I remember at the end of the night, we were just kind of like, after the smoke cleared, we were finished. It was my first time on set. I had been working. This is not working.
You know what they say, third time's a charm.
Hello? Is this working? Hello? Hello? The other one was working, man. I don't know why the... Come over here. Those Patterson beatings, man. Come back here. I'm going to take care of it.
You and I are going to have a sit down after this.
No, James Gandolfini was a very, very giving person, not only in real life, but also as an actor. I mean, as an actor, you have a lot of actors that they're in the upper echelon, the A-list actors and stuff, that once, because you have to do a scene many times over and over again, right? So when they have to switch from one angle to the next, right? They have to switch the lighting, so that takes time. So once they do their part, you're hoping that you're going to be reading with them off screen because the camera's on you now. But a lot of times those actors, they won't read with you. They'll have somebody else reading. You guys never know that. James Gandolfini, I hope this guy shuts up. I don't know who he is, but anyway, Gandolfini would always be there off screen. He would always be there, and he would always be reading with us off the camera, which was a sign of humility, sign of a good person, sign of someone who cared about the work and about the process.
This is I'll tell you what,
did you tell that guy to shut up, whoever that is?
Back in the day, we would handle this in 5 minutes, I can tell you that. But anyway.
Hey, why don't we go out for a second, all right, me and you?
I'll be right back. Wait a minute. No. I want to, when I saw the kind of twist when Furio was kind of getting romantically involved with Carmela, I said, whoa, this is getting very heavy, very deep here. How'd you feel about that whole sequence, that whole...
Okay, every year prior to starting the new season, right? HBO would kind of kick it off with a big party and stuff. So I remember being at this party downtown on the Lower West Side, and all of a sudden I see Eileen Landris walk in with Edie Falco. And I was talking to somebody, and from the corner of my eye, I see somebody waving, and I look over, and it's Edie, and she goes, "Federico, next year it's you and me." I'm like, that's great. I'm like thinking, holy shit, you and me. I mean, what the hell is that supposed to mean? So I read the first script, right? First of the fourth season. And it says, Furio rings the doorbell. Carmela primps her hair in the mirror. And I'm saying, oh shit. I go over to Terry Winter. I go, Terry, does Furio get this? No, he's going to have a great season. It's not going to happen that way. We don't want to kill the character. So I knew very early on, even before David Chase gave me that proverbial call. David would call everybody when they, either getting whacked or getting off the show or something. But so as a professional, I kept it quiet, right? And did my work. And, and basically, that's when you realize that you're playing with the boss's wife, it's always not going to end well.
Well, that's right. And let me tell you this, in real life, in my former life, when we take our oath, one of the things we're told, you never have to worry about your mother, your sister, your daughter. You don't ever mess with somebody's woman, ever. That's an immediate execution, I would say. So when I saw that kind of thing, I said, oh, this is going bad. Furio's in trouble on this one. But eventually you escaped. You go back to Italy, and that's kind of how it ended, right?
Well, what happened was, one of the things as an actor, when she said that, I was very excited because I've always admired Edie Falco's work in other projects as well. But yeah, I mean, look, the part where I have to go to Italy, my character goes to Italy because his father passes away, and he speaks to his uncle. No, by the way, I have a quick little story about the actors. I would, from time to time, Georgianne Walken would call me and say, Federico, we've gone through so many actors, everybody's like, it's like a revolving door here. Do you have any new faces, anybody new that could play the uncle in Italy, in Naples, Italy? I said, you know what? I said, I have a couple people that I know. There was this one wonderful guy. It's a little guy. He was a Neapolitan poet by the name of Nino Del Duca. And he used to come to the cafe on 21st Ave from time to time. And he had this a little bit longer hair, he was like in his 80s or something like that. So I went into the cafe. The guy that owned the cafe, he called him up and he said, listen, there's a guy who wants to talk to you. He's on The Sopranos. So he didn't know what The Sopranos was. His family did, though. So they bring him over to the cafe and we start talking. And I said, listen, you speak Napolitan, you've written some beautiful poetry, Napolitan poetry. I said, would you mind, reading with me and coming in and auditioning? He goes, but I am not an actor. I said, no, but listen, you got a great look, and we would be going to Italy if you get this role, So I convinced him, and I bring him in. I brought 3 people in, and they hired, out of the 3, they hired 2 people. So they hired Nino to play my uncle, but this was funny because he auditioned with me with David Chase and one of the other producers and the director. And when the thing was over, David Chase, I could see David just loved him, And he goes, Nino, he goes, I would love to give you this role. And again, he goes, but I am not an actor. And he wound up doing it, and he was wonderful. God rest his soul, man.
So those are the great little backstories that we never get to hear. It's great, really great. I got to tell you, thing, because you got 2 Napoletans sitting on the stage. Everybody thinks that Cosa Nostra Mafia is a Sicilian thing. They like to take the credit or the blame, depends how you look at it, for that. That's not true. I mean, there are different groups.
Camorra.
Yeah. I mean, there are different groups. And we Napoletans, we like to say we're the better of the class, right?
I think so, yeah.
Don't get insulted. I have a lot of Sicilian friends, trust me. But anyway, those are the little backstories that we never get to hear. Anything else like interesting happen on the set? Anything funny?
Oh yeah, there was this one story. Well, this wasn't actually on the set, but we were, because the show was at sort of the height of its popularity and height, of its fame. We were asked to do a lot of appearances, public appearances, And so we were in, I think it was Foxwoods, Back then it was like this huge deal. A lot of high rollers wanted to meet us. And so we had, Tony Sirico would always be with this one guy who drove him all over the place, right? This guy, he was a big guy with blonde hair and everything. He was always well-dressed. Guy was I never saw the guy drunk or anything, right? So we did the first round of, shaking hands and everything, and then we were about to take pictures after that. So we went back into the green room. So all the actors are back there, and I walk in and I see Lorraine Bracco, and she's smoking a cigarette, she's like this, smoking a cigarette and just looking at something. And I saw other people looking at this table, the table with all the food on it. There's this huge plate of spaghetti, right? And there's just one guy sitting at this table, fucking drunk off his ass. And he was reaching over to that thing that was almost in the middle of the table, and he was like getting the spaghetti, dragging it on the table onto himself and eating. And it was like watching, I was mesmerized, just like everybody else. And I'm saying, oh shit, this guy's gonna throw up all over the place. So Jim walks in, Gandolfini. He goes, what's going on here? I go, this guy's gonna throw up all over the place. Look at him. So he's got spaghetti all over him. He was always I didn't understand this. So anyway, he goes, we got to get him out of here. So I go, all right, I'll grab one arm, you grab the other. I go, what room are you in? He tells us the room. And he's like, I said, where's your key? So we get to the room. He goes, where's your key? So I go into his pocket, I get his key, and he's like, we're holding the guy up. Put in the key in the thing is not working. I said, what the hell's going on here? All of a sudden, some guy opens the door. He goes, hey, what's going on? Tony, Furio. And he sees the guy with the fucking true story, hand to God, man. Unbelievable, man.
Crazy stuff. Yesterday when we spoke, we enabled everybody to ask 5 questions.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Okay, and Armand was nice enough to answer that. I'm sure Federico will do the same. So 5 questions, maybe a little bit more, depending on how much time we have. But we have a guy with a microphone, Jay.
So a microphone that works, hopefully?
Whoever got a question. Yeah, a mic that works. We're going to talk afterwards, I promise you
I'm just busting your chop.
This young lady right here in the front.
Hi.
Hello.
Are you surprised to see how many young people are coming to this thing?
I am. Actually, I am. That's a good question. When we were doing the series, I had a lot of friends who had like young kids. We had to put the kids to bed before we could watch the series. And now, just yesterday, I saw these young people coming over, and I said, "Excuse me, I just have to ask you, how old are you?" Two guys who were 16 years old. I said, 16 years old? You've seen the entire series? Yeah, 3 times over. I said, wow, that's amazing, man. This is a whole new contingency of young followers, young watchers of The Sopranos, and fans. I mean, they're big fans. They know all the lines. It's really quite amazing to see that, and we love it because it's just continuing this great series. The love for this great series and the actors. But also, one thing I have to say, I've been asked this question sometimes, and they say, why do you think people still love this so many years later, 20 years later? And I put it in a very simple term, because I'm a painter, right? If you look at a great painting or a great sculpture or a great song, from when it's done, it's always great, from the start to the end of time. And that's what I feel about The Sopranos. The writing, the acting, music, just great.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I don't think a lot of you understand. I've been in and around this business for 30 years, and a lot of people will send me a script or send me an idea for a movie, and they believe it's, terrific, and a lot of times it is. I don't know if you understand how incredibly hard it is to get a movie made or to get a television series made and actually put on the air. It's incredibly difficult. And Sopranos was the groundbreaking series. I mean, it really was. So many followed afterwards, but it was so brilliantly done. I think it set the stage for all of these other great series that we see now. But you got to give them a lot of credit, to get it on television or whatever medium it's on, and then to have the success that it's had. It's unbelievable.
David Chase pitched it for about 10 years.
Yeah.
Everyone turned it down, except for there was one guy, Brad Gray, who saw the brilliance in that first episode, of that pilot episode, and he is the one who brought it to HBO, and that was history, man. It was like they gave him the shot.
And that's how it goes. Sometimes the greatest directors, greatest producers, they're pitching a project for years and years and years until it finally gets made. So understand that. The Sopranos is, to be in the category that it's in, unbelievable, the work that was done there, really. So, who else? Questions? Right here in front, this young man.
Young, I don't know, Mike. Michael, I wanted to tell both you guys are really nice guys. Furio over here, I called him, I yelled him, "Hey, Furio," and he waved back to me, smiled, and you smiled at her yesterday. I got to talk to you about that. But, Michael,
right, let's talk over there on the side of it.
Michael, I wanted to ask you, because I really came here to see you for the whole weekend, because I watch your show all the time and all that stuff. Are you going to do Heat or Once Upon a Time in America on your Mob Movie Monday?
I will. That's one of the most requested films that I get. For some reason, every time I sit down to do it, I pass on it and do something else. But I promise you, we'll get to it shortly. It was a great film. Great film, great actors. I'll tell you a little story. I met my wife on a movie set. I was actually producing a film in South Florida, and she was a dancer in the film. We brought dancers in from LA. She's 20 years old. And she didn't have a clue who I was. She thought I was a movie producer, right? That poor girl. But actually, we're celebrating 37 years married on Tuesday, so it was okay. But the first movie I took her to see was Once Upon a Time in America. It just happened to come out. And she said to me later on, she said, I should have realized at that moment what I was in store for, because she didn't have a clue. But yeah, great film, and we'll get to do that for sure. And thank you. That was a nice compliment. I appreciate it. Anybody else? Everybody's in the front, anybody in the back? Okay, that gentleman in the back, we'll get to you. All the way back there, Jay.
Yeah, my question is
one
for
of the
Michael.
17-year-old guys there.
Quick question. I was just wondering, you know how whenever all these mob stories get made, the writers do take a lot of liberties when it comes to, making drama. So my question for you is, like, what part in The Sopranos do you think that you were watching it and were like, that would never, ever happen in real life?
You asking me that? Well, I can tell you, right from the get-go, and I get banged on this a couple of times, that you would never see a mob boss visiting a psychiatrist. That would be a major problem. And people will come back to me and say, well, Frank Costello, mob boss at one time, was visiting a psychiatrist. Well, he did it 2 or 3 times, and that was the end of it. And there was no secrets revealed. But so that in itself would never happen. Trust me. But it was done so well, and it was such a great part of the story that you just really got into it. I mean, I really enjoyed it. That's the one place that Tony kind of just, he let it all hang out, I think. But that would never happen. I mean, there was a couple of things, but for the most part, it was realistically done. I mean, it really was. I mean, there really is a Jersey crew that they modeled it after. And David Chase had some, some good
The
consultants.
Cavalcante family from Jersey City.
So, I mean, for the most part, it was pretty realistic. But remember, they always take some dramatic liberty. I mean, I have a television series now being produced on my life. We just got the pilot yesterday, actually. And I told the writer, I said, look, authenticity means a lot for me, but sometimes you'll do a little something that'll just engage the audience a little bit better, and you throw it in. I mean, after all, it's entertainment. Remember, the bottom line, we're trying to entertain.
That's true. And also, I'm going to add to that is, with Melfi, all of those sessions, you really got to understand the psychology behind what Tony Soprano was doing and thinking. And, a lot of people related to it. A lot of intellectuals really watched it. And a lot of people in the art world that I'm a painter and a collector of old masters, 17th century paintings, Renaissance paintings, like real deal shit. I mean, no kidding. It's like museum quality things. And I get experts that have studied their entire lives on one particular painter. I will call them up and just to get an idea of, if I'm onto something, send them a picture, and I tell them, I would call them up and say, listen, my name is Federico Castelluccio, and he stops and he says, wait a minute, what is your name? I said, Federico Castelluccio. He says, are you an actor? I said, actually I am. He goes, are you the guy in The Sopranos? I said, I am. I said, you know who I am? So, you wouldn't expect intellectuals and, people in that arena to know The Sopranos, but they did, because it was so, the writing was so in depth psychologically, and that also came into the Melfi scenes. A lot of people didn't like him; they thought it was boring, but I loved it because I really got to see the nuances of who Tony Soprano was.
Yeah, and I thought it was great too after I got into it, because I said, normally, in that life, you don't share your thoughts too often. My father always told me, always be a good listener, don't talk too much. And in that life, it's really for your own benefit. You just keep your mouth shut. You don't talk about people. And to see him to be able to, because look, a lot of people don't understand. We're still human beings. We have families. We have things that we have to deal with, like normal people at times. And to see Tony be able to open up was eye-opening to me. Another great part of that series was the relationship between Tony and his mother. I mean, wow. I mean, there was a dynamic there that, I think some people can relate to. I mean, I love my mother, but my mother was a very, very independent, difficult, tough woman. My dad had a tough reputation. Sonny Franzese, look him up, I wasn't afraid of my dad. I was afraid of my mother. Okay. She was rough in that way. But yeah, I mean, there was so many great things that happened throughout that series that just kept your interest. For me, it was all about the family dynamic. I loved it. His relationship with Carmela, the kids, because, I grew up in that household. And, among my mom and dad, the things that we had to go through. My dad was always in trouble throughout the 60s. He was indicted 4 times, went to trial 3 times, was in and out of jail. We had surveillance around us constantly. So to see what those kids had to go through, on camera was, I just really related to it, really. So there was so many things in that series that people were able to relate to from every walk of life, I think.
Olivia Soprano, I don't know if you know this, was based on David Chase's mother.
Yeah.
He had a really, really rough time, with growing up with his mom.
Yeah, I thought it was based on my mother for a while. Yeah. No, I'm serious. When my house was being built in Long Island, they put a bug in the house. And my mom and dad, they loved each other, but it was a crazy kind of love. It was kind of like Carmela and Tony in a way. And I'm saying, man, they must have got that bug, and this is all about my mother, but fortunately it wasn't. But anyway, interesting. Who else? Question. All right, right up here in front. Wait, get the mic.
the Melfi scenes are so great because you get like the internal monologue that you normally don't get in that type of medium through film. That's me personally. You know, as a
That's true.
big avid novel reader, it's the big difference between novel and movie. And then you worked with so many great actors. Who was your favorite actor to work with? What scenes did you love the best?
In The Sopranos?
In The Sopranos,
Well,
yes.
most of my scenes, I think, were with Gandolfini, with James Gandolfini. And I learned a lot, actually. You know, I have no problem saying that. I was already an actor, you know, knocking around for 10 years before getting The Sopranos, you know, doing theater and television, film, commercials, different things. And I admired him so much. And one of the things I was going to say is that before, when we were talking about him, is that first time that I was on set, and this, you know, at the end of the night, we were just standing out. Everybody's kind of clearing everything out. And he was just standing there. And I said to myself, this is a good moment to just go over there and tell him that I've been following his work for a long time. And so I said, James, he said, call me Jim. He said, I just have to say it's an honor working with you and, you know, getting to, you know, do these scenes with you. And I said, I've been following your work for a long time. And, you know, he's like, following my work? He's like, and that little moment really told me everything I needed to know really about how humble this man was, you know. And it was just a great experience working with him.
Right over there, Jay.
Yes, my name is Gary Watson, and I just want to applaud the event that took place the 2 days. And I think you guys are groundbreaking when it comes to conventions because you're tapping into an art form of cinema that normally gets not the appreciation because of the political and the criminality. But you guys were groundbreaking when you did The Sopranos. And to answer your question, why so many people from so many backgrounds connected with that is because you guys touched nerves and you made your stories human and you made all the characters human. So that's why somebody can always associate somebody in those characters as one of their family members. My second question is, I want to say, since you guys are doing this wonderful thing here as a convention, are you going to open it up to the ranks of other mobsters from whether with the England, Boston, because you have a lot of great stories, and I just think that you guys could be the ones, could be that nucleus when you have these conventions and bring in like you got the guys from England, you got the guys from Boston, you got even Godfathers from Harlem. I like to see it get big because I think you guys.
I love that show, by the way.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say.
No, absolutely, Mr. Watson. I think that you're absolutely right. This is just the beginning. I think we're opening this up to so many different things. You know, we saw the reaction of the first Sopranos convention that we did back in 2019, when the three, you know, super fans that came to me. Actually, there were two super fans, and then a friend that I had done appearances with was the person who contacted me up in Rhode Island. And so Michael calls me up and he says, "Listen, there's these two guys, they're super fans. They, you know, it's the 20th anniversary of the Sopranos coming up. They want to do a convention." I said, "Wow, that's really interesting." You know, because I've been to some conventions. I've actually done some signings and, you know, some of the other conventions, and like Chiller. I don't know if you guys ever know that one. And I said, we could be onto something here. I said, let's give it a shot before somebody else comes up with the idea. And so we formed the company, and we did the first SopranosCon appropriately in New Jersey, right? And in Secaucus, exactly. And so we were expecting like maybe 3,000 or 4,000 people. Well, close to 18,000 people showed up that weekend. And we knew that we had something here, but just keeping it to the Sopranos was very limiting. So we said, let's open it up to other movies, like mob movies, like The Godfather, you know, Casino, Goodfellas, you know, these kind of movies, and also television series. And so, yes, to answer your question, we will be expanding this to other things. I would love to do something as well, you know, with, American Gangster and Godfather of Harlem and stuff, which Paul Sorvino is in that, right? Cool. And yeah.
And I have to tell you, I don't know if you realize this, but you know, I'm a speaker and I've been speaking all over the world, from Singapore to Australia, you name it. And when I get there, I'll tell you one story in Singapore. If you were here yesterday, you heard this, but after I spoke, the host came in and said, look, we promised a Q&A afterwards. He said, but Singaporeans are very reserved. They don't ask a lot of questions. He said, we'll put a shill in the audience, maybe ask one. That'll be it. I said, great, we'll go home early, right? No problem. I was there for 2.5 hours answering questions. Where was Jimmy Hoffa buried? Where's all your money? All about John Gotti. I mean, I could not believe how knowledgeable these people were. Point being, this genre all over the world, I mean, people are into it. It's because of great shows like The Sopranos and great actors like Federico, and you know, the media, television. It's unbelievable. So I mean, there's a lot of legs here, a lot of legs for this genre. That's for sure. But another question. We got two more. All right, let's go. Oh, this guy jumped up in the back. Let's get him. You part of my crew? Okay.
Great job. This question is for Federico. Recently watched The Brooklyn Banker, and I
Thank
believe
you.
he directed it. It was a great movie, and I just want to know, do you have any more projects in the works?
Yes. I'm actually, since 2006, I'm not sure if you know this, Michael, I started directing. You know, in this business, you really kind of, sometimes you have to create your own path. I never intended to be a director. I'm a painter, you know, by nature, and, you know, I've been painting. I've collected internationally, and my work's in different museums here and abroad. But I found that when I came up with a story for this little graffiti artist, after I went to go see an exhibition, I did it. I'll back up just a tiny bit. I was on a movie with Jennifer Lopez and Mark Anthony called El Cantante, which was an underrated film. I thought it was a great film. And so the PA, this production assistant that would take me to set and everything, and she said, my last day there, she said, listen, Federico, I know you're an artist. I love your work. My boyfriend is an artist. He's going to have a show. Would you come if I invited you? I said, of course. I go to this show, and it's all graffiti art on canvas, but really cool stuff. I mean, going back to the 1980s, these guys that were like, they were called the Tats Crew. And she was a girlfriend of one of these guys from the 1980s. And they used to do up all these trains. So on my ride home, it just brought me back to when I was a kid in Patterson, because I would walk over this trestle and, you know, to go to school, and there was this train yard with all this graffiti on it. And so I called up my buddy who I went to grammar school with, who was a budding writer, and I said, listen, man, I got this idea for this little kid who's a child prodigy, and you know, and he's doing he's working towards something. His father is a failed Yankee baseball player. He blew out his shoulder, right? And now he's just like a couch potato, and he's just taking everything out on his son. And so his son is, you know, I came up with this story with a friend of mine. We wrote it, and then I was wondering, like, who's going to direct this? So I've been around it for such a long time. I said, you know what, John, my friend John Alfieri, I said, I'll direct this. So as I'm an artist, I did all the storyboards, you know, and got a person that I worked with before, who was a DP, director of photography from Italy. He came in to shoot this. We shot it on 16 millimeter, and it turned out to be, the title was Tracks of Color, you know, because of the train tracks with all the graffiti on it. Well, it turned out that this little film won tons of awards. Chaz Palminteri's wife, Gianna Palminteri, was our producer on it. She produced the film. It turned out to be a great thing. So I started back in 2006. Directing to me was like sort of the closest thing to painting, next to painting, because you're using each frame almost like a painting. You know, you're looking at composition, you're looking at color, and of course you're using your actors as implements as well. And so, and being an actor, you know how to talk to actors when you're directing. And I think every director should take an acting class. But Years later, after so many different short films and commercials that I directed, I got the opportunity to direct a feature film called The Brooklyn Banker. We're in 800,000 hotel rooms right now. We're in this hotel room as well. And I'm very proud of that film. Paul Sorvino is in it. David Proval, who's on The Sopranos as well, played Richard Creel. A young actor that happens to play the lead in it. His name is Troy Garrity. He is Henry Fonda's grandson. And, he really, he brought it to the table. This film is really good. So to answer your question, yes, right now I'm slated to direct 3 feature films. One is with Harry Lennox, who is an actor on Blacklist, wonderful guy. And that one is called The Chicago Way. The same writer of The Brooklyn Banker wrote a play, A Queen for a Day, it's called, and that's a legal term for a proffer, where you can go in, you can get immunity for telling the federal government any kind of criminality, and you don't get charged for it. And so it's based on that, but there's a double entendre there, and you probably can guess it. So that's the second film that I'm directing. The third one is a film that I'm co-writing called Three's Company 2. It's a comedy. So that's what's going on.
Let me tell you something. That's a lot of talent right there. I can tell you that. All right, we got one more. Let me see.
This guy right here.
All right, right here.
Yeah, go ahead, man. He's been raising his hand the whole time.
I see. Okay, I missed it.
Thank you very much. So to Federico, it was really amazing watching you kind of put yourself, from your country into The Sopranos. Sorry. It was very cool seeing you put yourself into The Sopranos and kind of play yourself a little bit. And so my question is, are there any other instances that you really got to kind of like alter the way The Sopranos was done? You got to put a piece of yourself in the story or something like that?
Repeat that. I'm so sorry. I couldn't even hear the question.
Put it close to you.
Yeah,
Sorry,
put it
okay,
close. Yeah.
Better.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
Okay, so my question is, was there a part of The Sopranos that you were able to put yourself into, and because it was really cool seeing you play sorry, I'm losing my words.
I got your question. I'm going to answer it right now. When I read the script, okay, remember when I was telling you about the 3 punches to the woman? Well, when you read it and you're doing it, you don't have the job, and it's not a reality, right? It's not a reality that's. So now you've got the job, and that you have to kind of portray that. You have to punch. You have to make like you're punching that woman. So I would never think of punching a woman. It's just it's beyond my. You just would never do that. And so I started having second thoughts. I was like, I got to go to David Chase and tell him I can't do this. I'm like, so I spoke to one of the guys that was working on the production, and also the guy who was supposed to be doing his name was John Senentiempo. He was going to be my stunt double. So I told him to chill out because I was doing all my stunts. So I said to him, I go, listen, man, I have a real problem with this punching of the woman. He goes, let me tell you one thing, man. He goes, I worked with David Chase that whole other season. He goes, if I were you, I would not say a word. And I started thinking about it. I go, all right, Federico would not do that, right? But would Furio, because these guys are sociopaths, right? Most of them. Maybe not Michael, but no
Thank
offense. So
He and I go talk afterwards too.
So I said, you know what? I'm a fucking professional actor. I gotta just break down any of those walls, any of those barriers, and I just gotta do my fucking job. And that's what I did. So there you go.
Just 2 things I want to say in closing, on behalf of Federico. I was a guy that never appreciated art. My wife, who's walking down the aisle there, would try to get me to go to the Getty Center. We live out in Southern California. I said, you go. I'm not interested in art. Never had an appreciation. A couple of years back, we went to Paris. We went to the Louvre. And after that, we went to the Vatican, and I saw, all the beautiful paintings. And I said, what the heck was the matter with you? How did you not appreciate this amazing stuff? And I just started thinking of the artists and how they were able to accomplish that. So the fact that you're an artist, I think we look at him as an actor and now a director, but I have a great appreciation for you as an artist because that's an amazing, amazing talent. It really is. Secondly, I've had the privilege, I think I would say, of being around a lot of celebrities throughout my life. I mean, from the time my dad used to take me to the Copacabana, we used to see Sinatra and Sammy Davis, and I grew up with these people. And, you know, some of them you like, some of them, but meeting with Federico and seeing his humility and how approachable he is and just an all-around nice guy, I have to say I really appreciate that about you. I mean
Thank
that.
you so much,
I
Mike.
really mean that. And I say this because, you know, I'm a little selfishly, there's this series on my life, and I want all the greatest actors in it. Now, obviously, this is a business thing. You never know how it works out on both ends. I don't have total control, but I do have some say-so.
The answer is yes, Michael.
I do have some say-so. I do have some say-so, but it would be an honor and a privilege to have you as part of that cast. I mean that. So
Thank you.
So we're going to be around. You know, like I said, Federico is approachable, so let's give him a great hand, really. Thank you. Thank you. Thank all of you. Thank you.